was it important for you to be willing to go, or at least inform the league that you'd be, willing to do something like that?
Well, willing, I guess, maybe is a strong word. We're eligible
Wouldn't
to
be
go.
against, I guess, yeah.
And I think, if it helped us defer giving up a home game the following year, that would be advantageous. So we're due to go, and I guess I'd rather go as a road team first, and then, years down the road, give up a home game. But I don't know if that's going to work or not.
Obviously, a lot of things being discussed, among them the Thursday flex game. How much support are you actually seeing for that? Because I can't seem to find anybody here that is excited by the concept.
Did the vote come out yet? Do you guys know what happened?
I saw table.
Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion about it. I actually spoke on it. I think there were really two components to the rule. The proposal. One was to allow teams to be scheduled for 2 short weeks. And the second was to allow flexing in week 14 to 17. I would say there was a lot more support for the first part than the second part. There were several proposed amendments that were considered, and ultimately we couldn't get to a vote that passed even the amendments, so it was tabled till May. I would say the flexing part I'm against, at least for the time being. We're flexing Monday night games this year, and to flex a Thursday night game the same year as a Monday night flex, I think it's let's crawl before we run a little bit. And it's a big deal for the fans. Obviously, they're expecting to play on Sunday. They've made arrangements, et cetera. And then you move to a Thursday night. You got school-age kids. You may lose some families, and I just think that hopefully we can find a better way to schedule enough games. And if you do 2 short weeks, you have another group of teams that you can have on Thursday night twice. That hopefully improves the product. And we actually put forward a rule proposal that couldn't be considered because it was a CBA matter to allow unlimited practice squad call-ups on Thursday, recognizing that the games maybe aren't as good as we'd like them to be, and you face a lot of players that you lose on a Sunday that can't play on a Thursday. So let's have more guys available. Maybe that would improve the product on the field. But that's a CBA matter, so it didn't even get put forward for a vote. So I think there's other ways to hopefully improve the product short of flexing those games.
You guys proposed 4 amendments, like we're part of another group that proposed a 5th.
Yes.
Are you, I don't know what the right word, are you finding your voice, as an organization? Like, I don't know, is it part of having more players, in prominent positions?
It's all Disney. I don't know. I don't know. We've talked in the past about different rule proposals, and I would say in all candor, it's probably we ran out of time to get them put together. And this year we were kind of making note as the season was going along of things that we thought we might want to consider proposing. And so we were a little more prepared to get them in time and work with the league office to get them written in the way that they could be considered. 2 were withdrawn, as you know, and 2 were voted upon. One was very close, the third challenge, if you got one right. It got voted down, and the second one was not something that the ownership could approve. It has to go to the CEC and the union, but it was supported at a level that if we could have approved it, it would have gotten approved for the third quarterback. So
Rich said he supported the
he did.
That, yeah.
He supported both of ours.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that one goes. But and the other one, that was something that we were strongly against last year when we made that change on the cut downs. And so it was good to have enough teams co-sponsor it that it really didn't even get put forward for a vote. So
Uniforms, helmets. New helmets this year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a time frame for announcing that, or anything I guess you could share with the fans that are super curious?
We do have a time frame. We're working with Nike to roll it out. I don't know, do we have a specific?
For the helmet?
The helmet, yeah.
The helmet?
Yeah.
Before the season starts? It'll be later this spring.
Yeah. So we have to coordinate that with Nike, but that will come out, in time for people. And then we have to identify the uniforms we'll wear it with. Once the schedule comes out, I sit with Dan and we kind of pick which uniforms we want to wear. And the new helmet will be available to be worn with the gray uniforms only, at least for the time being, until we make any other uniform modifications next year.
On the schedule, you guys are one of the buzziest teams in the league,
Mm-hmm.
I think. I mean, do you max out on your primetime games or come close to it this year?
I certainly think we'll be on more than just Thanksgiving. I don't know how many more. There's going to be more opportunity for primetime games too, because there's going to be 3 simulcast games on Monday Night Football with ABC and ESPN, so that's 2 more. There's going to be the Amazon game the day after Thanksgiving, which obviously we wouldn't play in, but it creates another primetime game for another team. So I think that there's more inventory, which should enhance our opportunity, as well as just the outlook for the team. Talking to Howard Katz a little bit, I suspect that we're going to get a number. I just don't know if it'll be the max or not. But
is that good? I mean, you like that? I know.
Well, certainly the exposure is great. I'd rather have as many at home as possible. I mean, the road primetime games are a challenge for travel, but if you earn the right to play on primetime, it's because of good things, not anything we should be worried about. And if it's scheduled, you plan it out and you adapt to it. That's one of my concerns about the Thursday night flexing is, you build the whole season around when you're playing. And then, 2 weeks later you get flexed with Thursday night. The coaches have already kind of committed to a practice schedule that's not assuming you're playing on a Thursday night. So
there was an NFLPA survey this year of all the players and all facilities, and for the most part, you guys scored pretty well in most of those categories. A couple maybe like a little behind. How serious do you take that? Are you looking into maybe any implementation of upgrades at the facility this year to address some of those player concerns?
Yeah, that survey, we weren't as expecting of it as it just kind of came out. But we do our own internal survey too, and that much more focused on that one. And it had some similarities, and the two areas I think that we need to do better on were identified in the dining support for the players, and then just the overall training room and the training approach. And we were proactively already addressing those even before the PA survey came out. Part of bringing Brett Fisher in was part of that response, and we're redoing the dining facility. We're taking an opportunity to move a dining facility upstairs, so we won't be down competing with the players, and we'll have more space for them. And hopefully that will at least improve things, and we'll continue to look at the surveys going forward. We do it on everything with our players, way beyond what the PA survey does. And it was, I think, for the most part, very solid, but these same two areas were identified, and we're addressing them.
How did the field installations go? Ford Field, Allen Park?
They both look great. I mean, the players love that. That's another example of player safety, proactively, changing the field at Ford Field. And then it wasn't really part of our initial plans, but we decided to do it at the same time at Allen Park. So the same field at, Allen Park is there at Ford Field and vice versa. So they're not practicing on one field and playing on a different type. Those that have been in and seen it love it. David Montgomery, when he was in for a signing, said it was the best indoor field he'd ever seen in terms of just how it felt walking around on it. So that's another example of just investing in the players, which is the most important thing.
What you got going on at Ford Field this year? Seems like always some kind of modernization.
Yeah, a few tweaks of concessions. The Barry statue unveiling will be a big item. Looking forward to doing that. We've seen pictures of it. It's coming along very close to being done. I think Barry's going to be proud of it, and so are we. So that'll be a big thing. The things that we're continuing to work on is just any way that we can improve, getting in and out of the stadium. Last year, thankfully, we were sold out on almost every game. I would anticipate that this year with ticket demand, and it's hard with the parking and the traffic and getting in and out of the stadium. So things that we can do to improve that are always on our mind. I don't have anything to announce right now, but that's something we're looking at. Season tickets, I think we're at 96 and change % renewal rate, which is maybe the highest ever. And then thousands and thousands of new season ticket purchases too. So ticket demand remains strong, which I think is because of the buzz about the team and the way we finished. So I'm expecting that we're going to have sellouts for every game this year, and that will create that same stress that we dealt with last year with parking and then getting in and out of the stadium.
That was a renewal rate, 96%?
Yeah. It's 96 plus, right, Mike?
Yeah, 6, 7, or 8.
You said
So-
it's the best you're aware of.
We know everybody who didn't renew, and we're calling them by name.
Do you have a time frame for the Barry statue? You guys still figuring that out?
Well, it's going to be done in plenty of time, and I think we're going to have, maybe kind of a soft opening and, like a VIP event to show it off, and then open it up to the fans, for the first home game.
When you're at an event like this, you kind of sense the buzz that you kind of just mentioned there?
Yeah, a lot of people come up and, were complimenting us on the season and, rooting for us and like the way we finished. So, but you still didn't make the playoffs. There's still a lot of things to accomplish that we didn't accomplish, but it's nice to have people recognize it. And a lot of coaches like how we play, which is, a compliment to Dan and his staff. They play hard, they play for the coach. And I think players want to play for him too, which is part of what we brought in free agency. So
Comfortable if you want to loop Mike in on this. I know he doesn't want to talk about Kelvin. Just the latest. What's going on with that one?
We're making progress. I mean, he can speak to it if he wants to, but I delegated that to him, and he's doing a good job, I think, bridging it. And I think we're in a good place, heading the right direction.
I threw that one out there for you.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'll take it. No, I think it's been a pleasure to get to know Kelvin throughout the process. You know, he's an impressive guy. You know, he's one of, if not the best receiver, you know, in the history of the NFL. And, you know, on top of that, I mean, he cares deeply about his family, the community, you know, football, and the city of Detroit. Him and Barry, you know, choosing to live here, you know, after they're done is, you know, is part of what makes them so special. You know, so just getting to know Kelvin throughout the process, having that open dialogue, and just getting to know him as a person and kind of what he's interested in. And a lot of that aligns with what we're interested in as an organization. You know, helping the city, and helping grow the game. So we're excited about, you know, furthering that relationship.
How did you build the bridge? I guess, you know, like what was the
Just through conversations,
Yeah.
you know, I think we had some mutual friends and acquaintances, and just, you know, ended up getting to know each other a little bit, and, you know, just really just having those conversations and listening a lot.
organizationally? Do you just feel like this is on the right track? It'll happen.
I do, and I think it's, you know, obviously it's the right thing for us, and I think it's the right thing for Calvin too. And, you know, we'll get past the, you know, the history, and I think it'll be a win for everybody.
Rod, this is really big picture, but like kind of hit a reset button on the organization a couple of years ago when you brought in Chris and you know, hired Brad and Dan. You know, outside looking in, it looks like it's trending. The vision is trending the direction. Work to do, as you said, but like how accomplished, I guess, do you feel? You know, the plan that you formulated as a collective is working, and maybe how, if at all, have you kind of tweaked that from the initial vision to kind of where you are now?
Really good question. I think, you know, the plan that we put in place, I'll start with, you know, just the search process for Dan and Brad. We've talked about that a number of times. You know, we focused on what was right for the Lions and the kind of individuals we want and the kind of culture that we wanted to embrace. And I think we found the right people that fit us and fit what we're about and how we want to operate the team. You know, obviously early on, it wasn't showing up on the field. You know, 3-13, 1-6. So you do always wonder, is the plan working? And I think, you know, we thought internally it was working. And while we weren't winning games, the team was playing hard. We had a lot of close games. You could sense the energy, you know, with the team. And then I think the second half of last year, the evidence on the field started to show up. But we're not there yet. I mean, we're not happy with 9-8 and missing the playoffs. I mean, we got bigger goals than that. So I think, you know, this next year will be year 3, and that'll be hopefully the year that, you know, we really take off. But internally, the way the team is working together and the coaching staff that Dan's assembled, and then having to reload with some of the guys that left this year, and the team that Brad's assembled, and the energy and the collaboration between all of them is exactly what we wanted. And the results on the field are getting closer to what we want.
This is 100% random, but you know, you said something a couple of years ago that I just remember it being very interesting, right? Like these once-in-a-lifetime events happen happening much more frequently now, right? 9/11 and banking crisis and COVID, and we have another sort of banking crisis. Does that impact, not crisis, I guess, but you know, there's some fears. Does that impact business? How does that impact, if anything, what happens?
Yeah, it can. I mean, I think, you know, something that I'm watching, and you know, one of our major partners and, you know, our primary bank is Comerica, and they were rumored at one point to be one of the banks that were, you know, worried about their stability. And so you have to pay attention to that, as well as the ripple effects of how it could affect the economy. I mean, if this went, you know, much more deep and severe than it is, that would, you know, present problems for other partners and season ticket members. Right now, I'm not anticipating that, but it's certainly something that you know, happens so quickly and, you know, very surprising. You can't ignore it for sure. I don't think it's one of those, you know, 10-year, 100-year events, but it's certainly not something to be ignored.
I think it's become one of our favorite questions here, but you mentioned talking to the schedule makers. We know that you like to slip in your little requests. Any requests you've thrown out this year that you're hoping to see with how the schedule might line up for you guys?
Well, one personal request, and Howard Katz reminded me of it the other night, is my son's getting married in October in Wilmington, Delaware, which is where we lived when he was younger, and I requested to play Baltimore that weekend because it's very close. So that's the one personal request I've made. Right. Yeah. I said, yeah, either that or a Monday night game at home or something. So, yeah, we have Metallica coming in the fall, which I had pre-cleared with Mike North last year when that tour was going on. So that weekend we'll have to be away. Otherwise, I didn't really. I feel like we've been treated fairly. I think it might be better for us, given that we only have 8 home games, to maybe open on the road, so that you don't end up having to have so many road games at the end of the year. If you open at home, that it's kind of 1 week you've taken away. So I did request consideration to open on the road if that works out, but that's not a must-have.
I thought you wanted the Metallica for that game on a Monday, so Dan could go to it too.
Well, it's Friday and Saturday.
Social media tweet something like that.
It's Friday, Saturday. We travel on Saturday, so I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up on the Friday night concert. I know I'll be there on Friday night.
It's a bigger picture thing, but I think we all think maybe the practice facility is not the greatest spot for fans to get to the training camp. It's kind of limiting in how many can get in there. What have you been thinking about in terms of expanding that, solutions? I don't know if it's big enough to even take the show on the road, but how can we maybe see a better fan experience at training camp?
Well, I would say it's a bigger question than that, Justin. I mean, we're considering whether we're going to continue to stay there and put more money into the facility, or are we better off looking at locations elsewhere in Metro Detroit where we'd have more space for the team plus training camp for the fans. But right now in the short run, we're gonna stay where we are, do the best we can to get as many fans in there and have the experience as good as it can be. I don't Dan talk about hosting the Giants first week. So I'm sure there'll be some buzz about that. We actually considered a week 2 opponent on the road, like we did with Indy last year. But the teams that wanted to do it really wanted to do it a different week than week 2. And we were hoping, and that's, I guess, back to the schedule, I did request this, that for preseason that we'd be home, away, home. Being home the 3rd week gives you a little more time to start dealing with the roster decisions that have to be made as opposed to traveling back. So we didn't want to commit to doing a road game in week 3 for preseason. So that's why that didn't work out with another opponent. But it's an issue, and I agree. I'd like to have 15,000 fans there. But given the constraints of where we are, that's how we're dealing with it right now.
Do you even have a really early timetable on weighing facility options?
I kind of had it as one of my goals this year, was to kind of decide, are we staying or are we going to relocate? And I'm not going to hit that goal because I've not made that decision yet, or recommendation. But it's a near-term thing that we have to decide.
And when you see what Indy does with their thing, I'm sure that you walk away from something like that and say, this is impressive about how many places exist that can fit something like that in Metro Detroit.
I'd be thinking less about relocating training camp than relocating the whole practice facility and keeping training camp at the practice facility. Indy has this unique facility that's very cool, but it's in their hometown. Sure. They're not picking up and relocating, to a new city. Players, I presume, are still going home at night. Coaching staff still going home at night. So I would rather have a bigger practice facility with more fan experience than stay where we are and go on the road for training camp.
I found you a plot of land, by the way, real close to my house.
Did you?
It's like 10 minutes away. We might have some zoning issues, but there's a lot of land that's for sale. So.
We actually have looked out that direction a little bit. But not nothing to talk about.